Greetings YouTube, greetings everyone, and this week we will exclusively be discussing the shootings in, I believe the place is called Isla Vista, the Elliot Rodger shooting, shall we call them, and I'll introduce first of all a guest who is a recurring guest, and I think you know what he's going to say. You, James, 1978.
Hello there, this is James S. Chanty, James 1973. Ah-ha-ha, got you there.
Definitely no trolling there at all, James.
Sorry, people with obsessive-compulsive disorder across the world grabbing hold of their laptops screaming, "Why, James? Why?"
Yeah, can I just say, you made yourself 5 years older, so the joke's on you.
I've turned 40, Danny.
Right, first of two new guests, we have Ashley. If you'd care to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Ashley Dakota. I live in Middle Earth, or the Midwest of the United States. I call it Middle Earth.
Yes, how are things down in Middle Earth?
It's very humid right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hobbits are staying in their hobbiton, and
I wonder if anyone in the world would actually get that reference. But no,
well,
if they do, put it in the comments.
yeah, let us know.
Yeah. Well. My question to Ashley was a reference to a TV show. If you can get it down in the comments, but yes. Anyway.
Okay, and second brand new guest, we have Luke, if you'd care to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Luke Taylor, formerly known as God Shiva before I got mad at Google and closed my old account. Let's see. I'm kind of an interesting guy. I like to stay in my house a lot and do math problems and programming for fun.
Okay, don't worry, we're a very nerd-friendly show.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Well, linked in the description, people, if you haven't already seen it, is a video by the uploader thingtoocoolforyou. Now, since the Elliot Rodger shootings where he... I think everybody knows by now what he said in his last couple of videos, and that he killed 6 people. And in the media, we have heard them blame, somebody somewhere blame everything from communism to same-sex marriage. Thing Too Cool For You is not alone in thinking it's fairly patently obvious that this was motivated by misogyny. And as far as I recall, she goes into broader issues about misogyny in the culture. And for a lot of people, I would say it's obvious that these were the causal factors. And I'm going to go in the order of people in which I can see them. If people want to pause this video and play the Thing Too Cool For You video first, go ahead. And the order in which I can see people this week is Ashley, then James, then Luke. So, Ashley, I suppose the question would be best framed as what caused these shootings, and is Thing Too Cool For You right?
I would have to say I strongly do not think she is right. I don't think misogyny has much to do with it, actually. Misogyny in itself is a problem, but I don't see it as the problem here. I think what we have is a person. I think that the real factors that factored into his decision for his shooting were things such as what he used in his manifesto and his videos. If we simplify it into the key words that he used in his communication to the world about it, we've got a hurt, lonely, confused, angry person. You know, we don't need to look at him as a guy or as a girl. He is just hurting. He's lonely. He's confused. He's angry. And those are in his own words. You know, he talked about being painfully lonely, you know, and whether or not you want to take his literal words, which were deemed misogynistic, if you simplify it, the bottom line is he's just lonely. He's got a semi-wealthy, affluent family, his parents, like his dad was a director. Typically, those kind of parents, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into it, but they're absentee parents, you know. They allow TV to raise them and babysit them, and, you know, they just let him do whatever he wants to do instead of, you know, caring for his well-being. And then we've got loneliness, possible mental illness, but I think it's more typical human angst and confusion that, you know, typically leads to mental illness in a lot of cases, but doesn't necessarily need to be treated as such. I think putting labels like misogyny or a single lone psychotic individual is dangerous and disingenuous to ourselves and our natures. When we leave people like him isolated from the rest of society, like a toddler or a small child, they will express their emotions one way or another towards society at large. They're going to lash out hoping for attention and respect. Even if it's negative attention, they're finally getting what they actually want, which is love and inclusion. People like this, and we can all relate to it. We can all relate to someone like him because when we're overwhelmed with our feelings of hurting, loneliness, confusion, anger, we're not always able to articulate our emotions into simplistic terms. So someone like this guy is going to use obvious societal factors like misogyny and things to get his point across, to get people to listen to him. Because the bottom line here is he's a hurting person who is not getting what he needs as a person in this society. And I think if we were able to reach out more to individuals like this and not leave them so isolated to themselves, because what he really wanted was to not be alone. It didn't necessarily have to do with women. The bottom line was he felt alone as a person. If we address those issues, the other things like misogyny or whatever other labels you want to throw at it become moot points.
Okay, and you, James, your thoughts?
Not applying this directly to Ashley, however, this is a point, excuse me, with regard to wider society. Something that I've seen on Facebook quite prevalently over the course of the last week or so. If he was brown-skinned, then Elliot Rodger would have been a terrorist. If he was black-skinned, African-American, then he would have been a gangster and a thug, and the black community would have been responsible, hip-hop would have been responsible, but because he was quote-unquote white, okay, he's half Asian, but he looked white, ostensibly. As far as I can tell, he had no real Asian influence in his culture. Oh, poor him, his poor troubled background, his mental illness, if only we had reached out to him. Now, Ashley does make some very good, very strong points. However, the fact that we only really care about individual issues such as loneliness, isolation, etc., when the perpetrator of such violent atrocities is white or can be perceived or assumed to be white, is perhaps a part of the issue. And yes, with regards to any tragedy, any case in which a person loads a semi-automatic pistol, goes into a public place and starts shooting at random, from Columbine to the university shooting, I think that they blame that on Call of Duty. The Asian kid who was shown posing with two guns in his hands. Yes, we can. The wider societal issues don't detract from the fact that, yes, whether they were mentally ill or not, in the case of Elliot Rodger, he was diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, no mental illness as far as I'm aware. But whether they were mentally ill or not, their own issues as individual people, which society fails to address, the fact that we do fail to reach out to them as individuals is the issue in each individual case. It's not like Elliot Rodger was a perfectly happy, normal 20-something kid until he went on the internet, saw a pickup artist forum or an extreme, rabid, misogynistic, anti-feminist video and said, okay, I'll go, hey, wait, blonde sluts are treating me like are friend-zoning me, I'll go out and kill them. It was his issue as an individual. But beyond that one individual case, the motivations, the factors which helped guide Elliot Rodgers on the path to mass murder, regardless of whether they were the actual driving force, the motivation, or not. These are serious issues. I did make a video pointing out that he was one malignant cell in a cancer which is spreading. He is perhaps the most extreme example of an attitude, of a belief, of an ideology, which, like Anders Breivik, being the one lone extreme example of right-wing nationalism, Islamophobia, and anti-cultural Marxism, anti-leftism, etc., can, in those individual cases, lead to mass murder. So, the point with Elliot Rodger and misogyny is that, yes, he was an angry, isolated, troubled 20-something with autism spectrum disorder, a lack of ability to interact with other people, to what extent, who really knows. But then he goes onto the internet and all of these videos and posts and blogs and forums explaining how women take while men give. Women have all of the sexual power in our society. Feminism teaches women to use men as walking wallets, to friend zone them, to use the promise of sex to get whatever they desire and then turn them down cold. The term that a lot of MRAs, anti-feminists and pick-up artists throw around is hypergamy, another word for gold digging, only having relationships, giving sex to the alpha male, the richest, the most successful, the most powerful man, leaving the others down. And when you look at the of course, all teasing men with the promise of sex and then turning them down cold and then crying rape if they assert themselves. These are the arguments that anti-feminists, pick-up artists, and MRAs make all the time. Yes, they fucking do. MRAs who are commenting on this thread even now saying I've never heard that. So yes. Take an angry person who is looking for something to blame, add something like the toxic misogyny, which is a growing cancer spreading throughout the internet, and something like the Isla Vista shooting, can be the tragic result.
And Luke, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we need to not fall into the same trap that society does of trying to find a single factor that motivates people to do things. Now, there may be a single factor that's the strongest motivating factor in anybody's actions, but...
I assume that was taken as read. Again, one of the problems I have on YouTube, the fact that I don't give caveats that, yes, this was not necessarily the only factor, but when you take the fact that, yes, many anti-feminists who call themselves MRAs, as well as being misogynists making arguments such as the one I made before, are also race realists. And, you look through his videos, you look through his manifesto, and you can basically just tick off where angry disenfranchised straight white men have said exactly the same thing in video after video after video on YouTube. This is one of the major themes I've been exploring on my YouTube channel for the past several months now, up until finally I just decided, you are just disenfranchised straight white men who are angry at the world because the world is changing and you don't want it to change. But there were obviously factors. It's not that a voice for men or pick-up artist forums or gay marriage or communism or the fact that his dad worked on Game of Thrones was the cause. As I say, we must never forget, as Ashley pointed out, he was a lonely, damaged, isolated, angry teen 20-something, who just wanted love and acceptance. Excuse me, but also if he was a black kid or a Muslim kid, would anyone be saying that after his death that he was that this was the case? But
okay, Luke, sorry, do you have anything more to say?
Yes, I do.
Excuse me.
No problem. You'll have to forgive me. I didn't actually read his manifesto myself. I did get the Cliff Notes version, though, from the Amazing Atheist video. One thing that he did say that made him unique from other people, and he identified this at an early age, is that he was a very jealous person. And that wasn't just about girls. That was just jealous in general. He didn't want anybody to have things that he didn't personally have. He talked about even like before he'd gone through puberty, being angry at other people. Now, I think that the notion that he was entitled to women came about both from the idea that women are commodified as opposed to themselves being humans, which I actually do perceive as misogyny, and then just a general sense of entitlement that he had just from expectations in his life. Now, whether that was innate or the result of the way he was raised, I can't really comment on that. But I would like to say that he did start to hate women based on them rejecting him or the perception of them rejecting him. I don't know to what extent they actually rejected him, since he didn't seem to pursue any of them. But then he went on from hating women to hating the idea of sex in general and wanted to destroy it from the world. Every time I've heard somebody mention that, they always act like that is extremely unusual for somebody to be denied sex and then want to destroy sex in general. That's not the feeling that I get, though, because it seems like people that hold themselves to a self-imposed standard of wanting to limit or reduce their own sexuality seem to want to destroy the ability for other people too. I'm talking about morality movements, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if whatever you call that is as rare as it's being made out to be.
Yeah, I'm not. I kind of see your last point, which actually hadn't really occurred to me. I will say something that's come up a lot among the people who are trying to say that this definitely isn't about misogyny is he killed more men than he killed women. Yeah, but he killed men for the same motivation that he killed women. It doesn't disprove the claim that he's a misogynist just because most of his victims were men. It still came down to, the entitlement, I suppose, is the term. And taking it back around, actually, when you list qualities of this 22-year-old, you don't mention narcissistic, arrogant, entitled, and do you agree that he saw women as something to be owned?
That's a good question. I mean, I could have just kept listing his overall qualities and attitudes, but I think, like I said before, if you just boil everything down into very simplistic terms, you're going to get the same thing. So, and like you, James, said, the autism deal just reinforces my point as to his inability to articulate, So, although he's giving us these his motives via his manifesto or videos, I'm just, especially with his autism, I'm just really behooved to really believe his real motivation, what he's saying. Like, it's really the women. I'm really standing my ground that I just believe that he's unable to articulate his real feelings. And he's seeing, via Hollywood, via United States society culture, that it must be those things because I'm feeling this way, the way he feels, lonely, confused. Because we all have those root feelings. It's not always true, though. Even for myself, personally, on things that I feel, I'll get too tired or too hungry, and then things will just pile up, and I'll be thinking it's this. Well, no, really, it's the root causes. I'm just tired and hungry. It's not really that my friend's being mean to me or, everyone at work is conspiring against me. That's sure how it feels, and although maybe some of the actions of my coworkers would reinforce my point, the reality is that isn't really what it is. I'm just tired and hungry. He's just lonely, angry, scared, whatever. I mean, I really don't... I think that's how it is with everybody, even in hate groups, even with terrorists, even with whatever. We're going about wanting and needing the same things in different ways. But the reality of it all around the world, regardless of culture, regardless of societal, points, I think we all just want the same thing, but we go about it in different ways. And especially for someone with like an autism spectrum disorder or, young men in the United States today, they're confused. It's hard for them to articulate really what's going on in their own heads. So whether or not they want to say, well, I hate women, I don't buy that at all from my experience with other people in my lifetime. I mean, really, when you sit there and talk to them face to face and you get to the root of the problems, they want and need the same things that I do. They're just going about it the wrong way.
Okay. Does anybody else have any brief final thoughts?
Well, yes. If anyone can hear me, I was having some microphone problems. Can you hear me, Alex?
I can hear you.
Yeah, you sound good.
Excuse me. Yes, Ashley, as I was saying before, in my own prolonged take on this, when you strip away all of the Illuminati and the feminist conspiracy and the anti-white conspiracy, etc., it's all just lonely, angry, straight white men who are terrified of change and want to be loved. But also the point that you made about American entertainment and society, beyond that, society in general. Elliot Rodger was shown through his dad's Hollywood lifestyle, through television, through movies, that you just be the handsome, rich, successful kid, and women automatically give themselves to you. What?
Yes. I agree with you. I do agree with you on that. Because it's hard for someone like that who is, autistic or isolated to not see it that way because of the culture,
Yes, so it's not a question of blaming. This is one of the most important videos which I've made and linked with regards to things like rape culture and society's responsibility when it comes to suicide and so forth. The vital distinction between responsibility and blame. Everyone at the moment is pointing their finger, blaming everything from communism to gay marriage, trying to in many cases, trying to use tragedies, as they always do, as to score propaganda points against the thing they hate. When the question is not blame, it is not a question of blaming the thing that we don't like or the thing that we want to get rid of. For the Isla Vista shooting or anything else, any other tragedy. It's a question of this kid was damaged. What did we as a society as a whole, what did we do, and more importantly, what could we have done differently? You see, and so yes, the fact that he was raised in a culture where white men, where strong, superior, handsome, rich white men are supposed to just automatically get the girl, to answer your question from earlier, Luke, he never pursued any woman. This was a point that Thing Too Cool For You raised. He never even talked to women. The fact that they didn't automatically throw themselves at him and were talking to other people were he perceived as being rejected. So yes, the whole question of how much society is responsible for this particular tragedy or any particular tragedy, a particular girl dying of anorexia, a particular man committing suicide, is their own issues, their own lives, etc. are always going to be the main part of the pie. But what as society are we doing, and what as society could or should we do instead?
Can I make one more point about the society at large issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The deal with society at large and having it play a role in things such as in this case, it's like, we blame TV for violence. We blame this. Like, that's pretty much basically the argument. It does have to play some kind of a role. However, I think that we as individuals within this society and the culture that we're discussing, by looking out for one another, we're all capable of dispelling that in each case, just like dispelling, and helping people with suicide, just like, we're missing, this is the main issue. Like, the culture doesn't have to be to blame when we've got each other's backs. Like, where were these girls that didn't ever talk to him on a level? Like, I've known many men who have autism that cannot speak to girls, and I still get to know them. I still make the point of talking to them just as people, not because they're guys, not because they have autism. I think that we're missing out on this whole empathy and compassion thing with people, and I don't know if it's because of so much internet use. I don't know if it's because of so much media. I don't really understand what the cause is, but I think we're getting more and more separated. I think people are getting more and more isolated, and regardless of what's out there, what the evils of our society and our culture hold, we still always have the power. We still always have the choice to dispel those. So the overall theme is, by empowering each other, we're able to dispel any issues that we have to overcome culturally by making sure that we treat everyone with respect and inclusion and love. That will dispel any and all issues that we may be faced with, whether it's suicide, whether it's violence, whether misogyny, whatever label you want to give it. If we were able to look out for one another, then I think that would dispel the main problem here, what I find to be the main problem.
Okay, and Luke, your final thoughts.
I just wanted to make a comment first about something that Ashley said. I'm concerned that there may be a certain amount of confirmation bias. Based on what I saw of Elliot, it seems like it would be very easy for people to mistake him for not being unhappy and lonely in general unless they were watching his YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. And I know you said you've gone out of your way to make friends with people, but you could make friends with and make a special effort with 5, 10, 100, 1,000 people. You can't really be sure that there's not somebody that you've missed.
Right.
Especially
Fair
when
enough.
that person, it doesn't seem to be willing to reach out. Now, I don't know if this is true in yeah, I'm sorry, did you want to say something back before I went on?
Oh, well, yeah, that's me, though, but what if everybody did that? Then he would just see everyone treating him with respect, whether or not they really got through to him. He would see the overall attitude of what he sees society and the culture of them really caring about him and them really wanting the best for him and him getting certain things really wrong on the bottom line of it.
Yeah, it just seems like we got a really long ways to go as society because, I mean, in our society, it's a very popular idea that people that are struggling with food, it's just we aren't challenging them enough or something. So trying to convince, I'm not sure.
Yes, don't you see though, Ashley? I also my playlist on YouTube. Please reach out to those in pain. For the longest time, I ignored the quote unquote societal issues of the effect that media was having on things like self-harm and suicide, the societal perceptions that society's standards were having on things like anorexia and other eating disorders, focusing on the individual, because if we can help the individual, then we solve the problem. But the thing is that the cultural issues themselves are the reason why, the cultural issues themselves exist precisely because people don't care. You can't focus on one and not, if only everyone reached out to everyone, if only the sky was made of chocolate. I'm not meaning to not meaning to belittle your point.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah, but not meaning to belittle your point there, but that is a grand wish. And
well, but it doesn't have to be this grand ideal and everybody just making this huge effort. It could just be more little things, and then things catch on. Just like any other movement that we've had.
Yes, and that is how cultures change as well. But what I'm proposing really is a two-pronged attack. So many people view it as either blaming society or helping the individual, changing society, but no, both are interrelated. If the Hollywood society in which Rodger mingled was more inclusive, wasn't all about appearances, etc., then that would have the
sent him a different message.
Yeah, it would have sent him a different message. But again, that's changing society through changing individuals through changing society. It's a whole gestalt.
I would like to add that the perception that I get from viewing society is that when they see a problem, the overwhelming majority tend to like authoritarian solutions. Let's ban things. Let's make this illegal. Let's segregate people.
Ultimately, it all comes down to the fundamental failure to look beyond yourself. We've talked about autistic spectrum disorders, lack of empathy, lack of interaction. But whether it's YouTube drama or poverty in the United States or healthcare or treating other, how to deal, quote unquote, with ethnic minorities, the whole divide between liberal and conservative, all political issues, all questions can ultimately come down to the two questions of, one, can you look beyond yourself and see things from the other perspective? And two, do you think that those people can be trusted?
Okay, running out of time, so any reply to that, Luke?
Not a reply to that, but I did have one more point on your original question.
Okay.
I do want to add that, and I don't know if this is true in the UK as much, but in America there is a strong subculture that believes that, you know, if a man, for example, catches his wife cheating on him, it is justified and normal, or at least understandable, to shoot both of them. You know, maybe that's not the right thing to do, but people say they understand where he's coming from. If Elliot Rodger felt that he was entitled to girls, plural, and he saw men, as in all of mankind, taking those girls, it just seems like a more radical version of the same underlying societal concept.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to get to with my point about how Rodger was just the most extreme example of the misogyny and entitlement and male privilege which exists throughout society. That yes, shortly after the Isla Vista shooting, another man shot 3 women simply because they refused to have sex with him. But again, not knowing any of the details regarding that, was it that he was autistic or mentally ill? Was it that he was an angry individual? Was he isolated? Did his mother beat him? But again, this attitude that society has, that women's duty, effectively, their role is to give sex to men in exchange for something. What if I told you that friend zoning is bullshit because women aren't machines into which you put kindness coins until sex falls out? The whole wider issue of male of the perception of female sexuality as a commodity, a weapon, and a tool that men own, control, and tame. So if she runs around and cheats on you, then you have the right to put her down like a rabid dog.
And on that bombshell, I could go around and have goodbyes from each of you. Thank you for your first time on the show, Ashley. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you. I did. Thank you for having me.
And so it's good night from you.
Yes. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
And it's good night from James.
Why, God? Why?
And it's good night from Luke.
Yes. Or good afternoon, as we say in the U.S.
In Middle Earth.
Yes.
It's good afternoon for Middle Earth.
Indeed. And it's good night from me.